trying to get my laptop to monitor the stream so I can watch the chat. Anyways, here we go. It is Thursday. We are working on Noah's Archipelago, and it is the coloring book. What I've got sitting here right now is a little something I worked on last week when I was sick. And 'cause I had a cold, I couldn't really talk, so I didn't opted not to stream. Anyways, this is kind of the vibe we're going for. The book is themed the A to Z of Noah's jobs. Noah being the main character of my web comic, but I will be doing some graphic novels. So this one is V is for vocalist because Noah sings in a bunch of cover bands. And you get sweaty under the hot stage lights. So that's kind of the vibe. The overall size is pretty much going to be this. So we are using, instead of the dip pen, we are using a bunch of those in different thicknesses. And yeah, let's get started. So that's the style we're going for. Of course, this is also a super zoomed in on Noah's face. Other drawings, not going to be that zoomed in, as we will see. I'm going to try and get through 2 of these in tonight's stream. And one is going to be it's kind of about the same size. So we'll have some of the same subdivisions in his face, and the other's more of a different scene. So let's get to it. Don't know if I'm going to ink every single page from this comic book on stream. I may end up most letters have two pages with that letter. So V is for vocalist is one of them. And I may decide to kind of do half of them off stream, that way we can move on to other projects a little sooner, but we'll kind of see how it goes, right? So the first one up is making a list of weird jobs Noah could have had. And we're going to start with an A and a Z today. One of them I saw a few times is like airport scarecrow. I'm like, what the hell is an airport scarecrow? I know what a scarecrow is, but you don't pay them, right? And I realized, oh, they're talking about the people who scare away the birds, so they don't get sucked into any aircraft engines and, cause all sorts of problems. For anyone who may have seen the old Mythbusters episode where they were firing frozen chickens into jet airline engines. So anyways, we've got Noah. He's running around on this little ATV. He's doing battle with the birds. Well, in the background, we've got a jet waiting to take off. So let's get started with that, and I'll give a quick look at what we're doing in the second half. Z or Z, depending on your preference, for zombie, and that would be Noah having worked as a theme park zombie, something like Fright Nights or whatever. So non-photo blue pencil underdrawing, it doesn't show up very well on camera until I start working. So why don't I get right to it? I'll try and not have any shadows on the thing. So let's start with the airplane here. And I will be kind of doing a variety of line thicknesses, but with this one, I'm not going to go crazy thick like I will on the close-ups of Noah's face. But we will still have, right now I'm using a 1.2 millimeter pigment liner and have one that's as thin as a 0.4 for certain lines. And that way, you kind of have a bit of variation. And plus, with the whole coloring book thing, as you have lots of small areas, it kind of helps to have that difference in line thickness to help make things pop out. Otherwise, it's kind of like, okay, what am I looking at, right? Probably not so much a problem for this particular image, but for some of the other ones, it would be. So, and of course, sometimes with the adult coloring books, you get really, really tiny areas to color. Um, I'm going to kind of try and have a variation in the book where some images are quite small, have very small areas, and some are a little more, varied, bigger spots. That way, it kind of, if you're tired and you don't want to be um, staring at really tiny lines, then you've got something that's a little simpler. And if you want something a little more complex, then you got something else in the book that's a lot uh, teeny tinier. So uh, it's good to have a variation. This is the first coloring book. I think this one's running out of ink. This is the first coloring book I have been working on, but it's actually a project I've been thinking about for quite some time. Um, and in the webcomic, there's been a couple bits here and there about Noah himself enjoying adult coloring books. So um, it's kind of about time to combo those and make it make sense. So I'll go in afterwards and add some like little small shapes to indicate grass too. But we're starting with the bigger, I guess, zone outlines. My dad's actually got his private pilot's license. So went to ask him about like airport scarecrow, and of course he kind of starts rambling on about, well, sometimes they shoot the birds. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm not going to show Noah shooting the birds. First of all, kind of like it to be obviously sometimes that's what they got to do, but it's funnier if he's just chasing them around. So I think sometimes my dad doesn't quite get the point, what I'm trying to do with this project. So that's kind of to be expected, I guess. Hi, Lila Lucas. How's it going? Thank you. Glad you do enjoy them, and glad you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good. It's been a bit of a hectic week, so but it's always kind of fun to be able to sit down towards the end of the day and go, okay, forget everything else. Time to stream. Time to draw some goofy cartoons. Like, don't think it picks up too much with the underdrawing, but there's Noah running around on an ATV chasing after birds. So it's always kind of fun to go, okay, now we get to just draw silly stuff for a while. Hi, Lucky. How's it going? Gonna just put some little squiggling lines in. Um, Gives a bit of a vibe of making the clouds more 3D looking. Just that light, yeah, it's a little better, I think. Subscribed. Oh, hey, awesome. Thank you. Always glad to have more people checking out the shows and subscribing, all that. Always awesome to hear. Thanks. Let's see here. I think I'm probably gonna, once I get the trees drawn in, I'm gonna add some rays, like whether it's sunrise or sunset. A, because it breaks up the sky and gives some more texture. And because somehow it's funnier if Noah had to get up at 4 in the morning in order to be chasing after the birds right around sunrise. I did actually look up some stuff about bird scarers and whatnot, and apparently it is quite common that they're probably, I guess, because of bird roosting, that they're there super early in the morning and then also around sunset to chase them away. This was one of the ideas I had a couple weeks ago when I did the brainstorming stream for this project. I did like a very rough pen sketch of Noah on the ATV, kind of fighting with birds at the airport. So I think the angle changed. I think in the thumbnail you saw more the back of his head, and I'm like, yeah, we want to see his face. So, but as always, I usually like to work top down. So we will see his face in a little while. Like drawing too. Awesome. Always great to connect with fellow artists. And also, I know for myself, I always find it fun to check out what other artists are posting on YouTube and whatnot, even if it's not my genre. Like, one of the ones I watch the most is this dude Connor, who is a glass blower in Florida. I think his channel's called Glass Goof. And it's like, I would not even try that because I'm clumsy and I would probably burn myself constantly. But it's amazing to watch these vases and whatnot emerge uh, from this like molten orange stuff that becomes the glass. So, well, I guess already is. You know what? Uh, oh, you've got your own channel. Awesome. To check it out at some point. I liked in shorts. Yeah. Yeah, I find for myself, there are times when I've done more shorts and others where, like right now, I haven't been doing as many. I find it seems to depend. I think what works on shorts better, for me, anyways, instead of like taking what I do in the live streams and speeding it up, I think when I was like last Inktober doing where I would do like just one little page. Um, Kind of a drawing like this where it was inking, but much smaller and speeding it up. That seemed to perform a lot better than, um, I guess, rehashing the streams. But I hear other people rehash their streams and it works great. So I don't know. Spelled that wrong. Yeah, no worries. I'm not too concerned about little areas where lines don't quite meet because in the end, I will end up scanning all this stuff and tidying things up a little in Photoshop before putting them together in the book. So don't want to be too neurotic in how I do things right at this stage. But you can always try and do things a little bit tidy, but not too tidy. Like, I know some people for lines like this would actually break out the ruler, but yeah, it is hand drawn, so not too worried about that. Let's add a little sort of horizontally, but not exactly, but somewhat horizontal lines for the lawn. S- Trying to think. I think, yeah, there's, I forget whether they're called aerons or elevators, but there is like a flappy bit at the back of the tail. So my dad will be disturbed that I don't remember what the parts of the airplane are called. But oh well. Hey, people watching, yeah, yeah, it goes up and down, I find, which is cool. And also, I think sometimes YouTube, there was something on like the YouTube studio the other day about where they're having a bug with the live count for who's watching. Um, so I guess people were complaining, I don't know, but I also know there's been some streams where I've looked and it has told me that I only have one watching, which would be my laptop where I'm monitoring the chat, but there's people in the chat. So it's like, okay, how are they chatting if they're not watching the video? So I don't know. I take it with a grain of salt. Uh, Plus, sometimes people can't make it live and they watch it a couple days later. So it's all good. Guess we would probably have, yeah, I'm going to squeeze in one more window, even though I think there probably would be a gap. Um, yeah. I'll figure out what I'm gonna do with the runway texture afterwards. Because in reality, it would be big, flat concrete blocks and numbers and stuff, but, let's move on down to this part, and then we can come back there. Or actually, I'm gonna do my kinda grass texture with the lines again. I actually thought, I had photos I had taken the last time I flew anywhere. So I went through my hard drive going like, "Oh, maybe I've got some pics of planes." It's like, "Yeah, I didn't take pictures of the other planes on the runway." Just have, like, really giant pictures of the wing that I was sitting on top of, basically. It's like, well, that wasn't helpful. Past me should have taken better reference photos. Oh, well. Uh, Okay, so now on to Noah and his nemesis, the birds. So, I need to grab the fatter pen again. I feel like Noah should be probably wearing a helmet when he's running around on an ATV, in and around planes, but that would mess up his hair, so he's not going to. Now, my dad said that at some of the airports they actually have these guys riding around on motorcycles, um, chasing away birds, but I don't know. Noah seems like he's not quite badass enough to be riding motorcycles, so what character? This is, my character Noah Thorson, from my web comic Noah's Archipelago. So, he is a dad in his late 40s who by day, he's a stay-at-home dad, and then he also sings in cover bands in the local bar scene at night, so and one of the running jokes is that his mother-in-law likes to claim that Noah doesn't work, and he would point out that he has 2 jobs, that being stay-at-home dad and then also playing in bands, so the, store like, because this is a coloring book, instead of just leaving the back sides blank, in case of marker bleed or whatever, I decided I was gonna also on the back sides, like on the left-hand page, we're gonna have like a little story that goes with the illustrations. So the gist of it will be that his daughter Ursula, who's in 3rd grade, has homework about jobs. So she's asking Noah about jobs he's had, and he's telling her. Of course, she's bored because she doesn't really, she thinks she's never gonna have to grow up and get a job. Until we get to the letter Q. And that's when he talks about this one time when he used to have a job as a quality control taste tester in a candy factory, and suddenly Ursula's all ears. But he will be ignoring her request for more information on how she too can have a career in eating chocolate. So, yeah, just a fun little bonus bit, I guess. Um, So this is one of the absurd jobs he's had of, scaring birds away at an airport. Trying to figure what that is. Oh, I guess it's the other wheel, except I don't think you'd actually see that all the way out there. So we're just gonna ignore that or maybe do that. I'll come in later with a thinner pen just like I did in there to add a little bit more definition. But yeah, no worries. Thanks for stopping by. See you again real soon. Take care. Now, I think all runways have big numbers on them. This might be the taxiway, and this would be the runway. So let's add some stopping kind of lines and then some numbers. Of course, it's going to make it look like a crosswalk, but oh well. And for space reasons, we'll assume this is runway 01. And I'm sure when my dad comes over on Saturday, he's probably going to look at this and have comments about how I did the numbers wrong on a runway, but oh well. I'll draw the birds first, and then I can do the pavement lines that way as well. But I'll add some on the runway over here. And I'll probably outline the runway with a much fatter nib as well, but we'll do that last. There is some sort of accuracy too, because a lot of runways, especially if it's somewhere rainy, they'll have actually grooves cut across the runway to try and get the water to um, pour off to the side rather than pooling, because you definitely don't want hydroplaning when it's a big jet. I don't think all airports have that, but like say Vancouver definitely has that. Uh, Depends on your weather. Noah is a man who does have a certain battle with Mother Nature. Like, he loves the critters and all that, but he does have his quarrels with birds and whatnot. Because he's a gardener and, well, they eat his cherries, they eat his berries. And I don't think I've done it so much in the actual web comic Noah's Archipelago, but definitely my sketchbooks, I have a ongoing joke where every time Noah has just washed his car, birds and bugs come looking to use his freshly washed car as a toilet. So there's some enmity or beef between him and the birds. Drawing this bird's feet a little too big, but if I drew them more accurate sized, then it would be end up being kind of hard for coloring. So this one we don't even see its head, but he's got four birds. Kind of indicates that there's a whole flock of them out to get him, and vice versa, I guess. But this other light so low that if I'm not careful, I bang it with my pen and then it rings. But kind of a nice sound, I guess. Mind you, my opinions on nice sound are questionable. I used to make industrial noise, electronic experimental sound, whatever you want to call it. So kind of leaving the bird's eyes blank without a pupil because then people can decide what color they want bird's eyes to be, and B, it kind of makes them look creepy and threatening. So which kind of hits with Noah's disagreements with them. All right, now let's do some of the lawn texture with the thinner pen, and then I've got one more angry bird down here that Noah will be fighting with, or that will be fighting with Noah, probably more accurately. I'm just going to kind of do like a squiggly line here. Maybe the grass is a little bit longer in this part. I think I will use the thicker liner to do some of these like bigger tufts of grass, though. Do that now, because then I don't have to think about it in the midst of doing the smaller squiggles. And maybe there's a couple dandelions in this field as well. Some other random weeds. If I was doing reduction size wise, I'd be a lot more careful about how I did the stems. But the book's going to be, I think, 8 by 10 or 8.5. I don't know if I haven't decided if I'm going to do it 8.5 by 11, which is this is slightly bigger than that, or if I'm going to make it 8 by 10. So it's not going to shrink that much. Is I guess the point of that. And we'll add one more little dandelion over here, and then that's probably all we need. Yeah. take the cap off of that. S- Somewhat stop me from bashing the pen into the light and making that ding. Adding in the weeds also gives spots where these little wiggly sections stop and start. So if somebody wants to change up their shades of green or whatever, then, you know, there's a defined outline to that. Whether anyone cares about that or not, I don't know, but some people might. I think what my dad said too is at the airports, they usually have like a little, um, almost like a, not a siren, but the swirling light. Um, but I figured it would be more fun to have him Noah with these little flags on the back of his ATV, kind of like you see on kids' bicycles. Especially because I'd already decided he was going to have streamers on the handlebars of it. So if anyone asks, his justification is that well, he read online somewhere, or he read somewhere that birds don't like the flashing silver things. So perhaps they're silver streamers. That said, my brother's neighbor has an issue with pigeons in the yard, and they don't seem bothered by streamers or the plastic owls or pretty much anything else. Now I'm having some that aren't quite as jagged because that's kind of a nice texture change to have as well. So, and they'll probably end up much more jagged when I get down around these guys. I think after this line, we're gonna go and draw that last bird, and then we can just fill in the rest. So this one we will see its pupils. It is looking at Noah. It is not thrilled. It don't like Noah's kind. right. Now, do I want to add a little thicker line in? I think I will for the runway, not so much around Noah, but just to really kind of bring foreground, background, right? So we'll do that. And maybe we will put just a little outline on this particular bird. It also kind of makes his little flags pop out more. And then, yeah, well, won't do a fatter outline around all of Noah, but I'm just going to put a little bit of a thicker outline on the bottom of the ATV. That gives it just a little oomph, you know? And yeah, maybe I'll do the top edge of the plane. There. It's not a whole huge amount of the really thick outlines, but it does give a little more weight. Now that I think of it, okay, this particular Angry Bird. All right. So there is A is for airport scarecrow. This will probably be, if not the first illustration, well, won't be the first illustration in the coloring book because I'm going to have a little like prequel where Ursula, his daughter, is asking him. Um, actually, now that I think of it, I do want to give a little bit of shadow under Noah's butt. Where did I just had that pen. There. Is to pop him off the seat just a wee bit. There. Um, so I'll have a little prequel of a few pages where Ursula's asking him about her homework assignment, right? And then he starts to tell her, "Oh, Daddy's had loads of jobs." Um, and then we get into them alphabetically. So the other A one is going to be artist model. Um, so um, that one I don't know if I'll draw it on stream, but so this would be one of the first illustrations and first or second of his jobs that we see. And then, the A to Z, well, let's now move on to the Z. Now this one, I must say, I did when I did the brainstorming stream a couple Tuesdays ago. Every time I was working on this drawing, There was nobody watching. So hopefully someone will see it because this is kind of one of my favorite illustrations. It is the job where Noah had working at a theme park around Halloween, dressed up as a zombie. So we get to draw Noah real crazy with makeup and bloodshot eyes and all that. So let's get right to it. Noah wanting brains. Now this one, because of the scale, I'm gonna do most of his features outlined with a 1.2, then we'll subdivide, like, in the flat areas of skin, with the point 0.5, and, then we will go back at the very end and pick out some lines to fatten up with the really thick marker like we just did on the other drawing, but, we'll get there in a little bit. I don't normally draw Noah's eyelashes, but seems like an appropriate time to do some crazy jagged ones and some crazy bushy eyebrows as well. And let's make his eyes look all bloodshot as well. Yeah, after all, he's a zombie here, so he's probably been up for a while in search of brains. And let's give him a fake gash across his forehead. He looks like he's wearing fake eyelashes, but, once this all gets filled in, the eyelashes won't be as like, "What on earth?" you know. Should outline his hair before I go further. And I think I'm going to do the main chunks of his hair with the big fat. Hi, V Airlines. Draw your country, Brazil. Your flag, Brazil. Sure. Let me grab a random bit of paper here. All right. So we've got the world. And I know there's like a little ribbon across it. And then the diamond, right? And the green background. So thanks for subbing and awesome that you're watching all the way from Brazil. Welcome to the channel. All right. So I'm going to now outline the main chunks of Noah's hair. We will put in thinner lines for within these chunks to show direction and whatnot. and then that gives me a better sense of how far out to, draw the fake blood and all that other stuff that Noah would be wearing as a professional, well, perhaps not so professional, but as a pseudo-professional zombie. Um, and actually, before I go too much further, he does have a little bit of dialogue here, so let's add that as well. The very predictable brains must eat brains. It's in the script. That's what he was getting paid to chant at this particular theme park. So now I've got the text in, now I can fit his hair around that. And of course, in the background, we'll do some echo outlining and that sort of stuff. So back to the really fat marker. have some more heavier outlines in a little bit, but for now we can go and work the rest of this. Um, Now, when I do the webcomic version of Noah's Archipelago, I usually have a couple different, well, actually 5 or 6 different shades in his hair. He's got gray streaks in his bangs and this sort of like bit above his ears. The odd gray streak elsewhere. He's got a couple shades of dark brown, a couple shades of reddish brown. But obviously, people are going to pick their own colors for Noah's hair. But I am going to try and have some difference. Like here, it's a finer pen. The lines are closer together here, same fineness, but more spread out. So it does look lighter and then medium. And yeah, so it gives, again, some different textures. It's definitely funny the difference I notice um, using markers versus, the nights that I ink with dip pens and liquid ink. Um, can really feel it in my knuckles, probably because I'm probably squeezing and pushing harder than I really need to for this. Like, if I'm really light, then I still make the mark, but I don't know. I'm used to with markers, I'm like, "Grr," which isn't good. I should be a lot loosey goosey with them and just let the ink do the work. But oh well. So it's kind of nice to alternate. Like last night, I was doing stuff with a dip pen and liquid ink. Tomorrow, I'll be doing stuff with a dip pen and liquid ink. So I don't think I would want to be streaming every night with markers, but I do like, the consistency you get using markers. And obviously, there's no cleanup and all that. So, um, you know, it's good to have balance, I guess. I think I will fatten up the outlines of his eyes with the thicker marker, but we'll do that after. Yeah, let's draw in. Well, I think of it, I'll put a little thicker outline around his eyes, and we'll outline his hand, and then I can start working on this background. I don't even think I'm gonna do all of his eyes, but just kind of the underside. And flip this upside down because then I can work in this area without risking smudging or as much smudging, I guess I should say. And yeah, so point out Noah only has 3 fingers. All the people in his cartoon universe just have the 3. Why? Because when I started doing the comic, I guess I was lazy and I figured it was more cartoony. There have definitely been times when I've been doing Noah's Archipelago where I've been like, maybe I should have made it more accurate, but then I'd have to fit more fingers into a small space, so and it would be weird if he suddenly grew a extra finger, so it's just the cartoon universe. Yeah. Some of these areas where it's a little overlapped, um, eventually I'll have to be scanning these into Photoshop and whatnot in order to set things up for the book design, and I will just tidy those up at that point. I'm not too worried about it. Just like I've got a few little teeny smudges here and there, so. So now we just have to do his hand, and then this page is done. All right. I think we are done for those couple pages. So let's have a quick review of what we drew tonight. Couple pages from the first Noah's Archipelago coloring book. Did I say first? Yes, there's going to be multiple, but the A to Z of Noah's jobs. So tonight representing A, airport scarecrow, and Noah on his little ATV chasing after birds so they don't get caught into the engine of the planes. And we see the runway in the background and a sunrise or whatever, and some weeds in the lawn, etc. So that's one page. And then we've got Z, or Z is for zombie, actually. While I think of this, I think I will put a fatter outline on his upper lip, at least for that. Yeah, that kind of helps outline things a little. Maybe I'll do his teeth. Okay. I will have everything have like a thick black outline, but certain things. Um, there. So there we have that, where Noah had a job at an amusement park one October, and he was tasked with being a brain-eating zombie with the makeup, with like the face rotting stuff and the fake stitches and fake blood and all that stuff all over, and chasing after people going, brains must eat brains. That happens at like Universal Studios. I think theirs is called Fright Night. I don't know. And then say Playland in Vancouver does something similar. I forget what Playlands is called. Um, but yeah, you have a bunch of these amusement parks that kind of get all themed out for Halloween, and zombies is a common thing. So Noah also had the job of being a zombie. And as I said at the beginning, the premise of the whole thing will be that his daughter Ursula has a homework assignment about jobs. So she comes to ask her pops about that, about jobs he's had and all that. So he starts droning on and on and on about his jobs that honestly Ursula doesn't care about, but she's waiting to hear the info that she needs. So, anyways, so those are our couple of sketches, well, not sketches, inked drawings for tonight. This one, I love the look on his face. The determination to get rid of the birds. Anyways, so that is it for tonight's live stream. Hope you've enjoyed the show. And to my new subscribers, thank you so much. Hope to see you again real soon. And speaking of seeing y'all again real soon, what we've got coming up next tomorrow night, 6:30 Pacific, I will be inking a couple more pages from Ricky B Goes to Sea, the Ricky B the Rock and Roll Rat graphic novel that I'm working on. That'll be with a dip pen. No more markers until next week again. Then Monday, I'll be inking a couple pages or inking a spread from Miles Marv's Pursuit of Happiness, which I was saying before it was a graphic novel. Now, realistically, it's going to be a collection of short stories, and what I'm inking are kind of like the chapter headers. I have not written the stories yet, though. Usually I write the stories first and then illustrate, but in this case, I am flying by the seat of my pants, um, drawing, and then I'll write the stories later. But anyway, so that'll be Monday. Tuesday, we are working on the Noah's Archipelago 2027 calendar. I'd like to say we'll get 2 months done, but this week I only got the one page done. So I don't know, one or maybe two, but probably just one page off of that. And those are full color with markers and whatnot. So that'll be Tuesday night. Wednesday night, I'll be inking a couple more pages from Zombie the Destroyer. And then next Thursday, we will do a couple more of these coloring pages the A to Z of Noah's jobs. So, and everything's 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. So, anyways, that's it for tonight. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Bye for now. Bye, Noah. Have fun chasing the birds.